Joining me right now is Republican gubernatorial candidate for New Mexico, Mark Ronchetti. Mark, great to have you today. Thanks very much. Will you be able to see Joe Biden today?
I think they're keeping him pretty limited. They've got some pretty tight events for him, and exactly what you said. He's not here to discuss the biggest issues that New Mexicans care about, and that is skyrocketing prices, a border where we have more and more fentanyl pumping into the state right now, and it is driving our violent crime. And Maria, he has not been on the border to address any of these issues. In fact, we're 600 border agents short on our sector of the border, with no hope that he's going to make those hires. So we in our campaign are going to fill that gap when we win this race on Tuesday. We're going to have a border strike force that's going to go after the fentanyl and the human trafficking into the state of New Mexico. It has become a crisis point here, and there's no doubt it's responsible for our violent crime.
Well, you make a great point in terms of the border agents, because we're seeing them drop out like flies. They are resigning. They don't have the support that they want. Border agents told me they were talking about overall 15,000 to 20,000 tops border agents. Meanwhile, Joe Biden wants to hire 87,000 IRS agents, so that we have 166,000 IRS agents total versus 15 to 20,000 border agents. It's extraordinary. And one of the biggest issues in your state is that unsecured border. I spoke with one of the border states congressmen, Carlos Jimenez, on the show earlier. Here's what he said. Watch.
No, he's not gonna bring that up. It's one of his greatest failures as president of the United States. Obviously, a president's supposed to keep us safe, keep our border safe, and he's an utter failure there.
So, Mark, how are you going to secure the border if elected? Tell us your plans.
Well, Maria, first of all, when this governor was elected in 2018 and took office in 2019, one of the first things she did was remove the National Guard from the border and basically abdicate her responsibility. Isn't working with Texas or with Arizona. Why? Because to her, everything is politics. And because we have Republican governors on either side, we have no coordination at all. So the first thing we're going to do is return the National Guard temporarily to the border. We're going to coordinate with Arizona and with Texas. And then we're going to add that border strike force through the Department of Public Safety. And we're going to go after the fentanyl and human trafficking. But then beyond that, the problem we have here in New Mexico, Maria, is that we have sort of that holy trinity of terrible policy, which includes being a sanctuary state. We also have catch and release, and we also have a very soft on crime governor who continually appoints judges who let people right back out of jail. So all of this has led to New Mexico being the second most violent state in the country.
Wow.
And while this is all happening, we're seeing violent crime by 30%. We're also seeing our prisons empty out. Our prisons have 26% fewer inmates than they did when this governor took office. And in fact, she was releasing people up until 2 weeks ago under COVID orders. When we were ripping into her for this, she finally stopped. But that shows you sort of the total feel of the problem here in the state of New Mexico.
That's unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to understand the motivation here. Todd Pyro, jump in, because, you know, New Mexico is also dealing with an education issue. It's currently ranked last among state education. 56% of young children not in school. Nearly 80% of those in school are not proficient in math. Todd, jump in.
I mean, obviously, your goal as governor is to improve the state's education system. How do you intend to do that, especially within the confines, within the constructs, I should say, of a Democrat education system, from the school boards to the state system to your fellow state legislators?
Well, I think what we've seen is in the state of New Mexico, the mass majority of our education system is funded through the state here. So there are definitely a few things we can do. Our biggest issue is we were held out of school longer than just about any other state in the country. And Maria mentioned the numbers. We're 51st in education. 13% of our kids can do math to grade level. 18% can read to grade level. So the first thing we have to do is catch them up. And we need to have had summer learning academies, which we haven't had in place. We will put those in place. We will extend school learning hours during the year, and then we're going to have more summer learning academies beyond that. But we also have to get more money into the classroom. We have to give individual school districts more control over their total future here, because in the state of New Mexico, they try to drive too much policy from Santa Fe, and that's been a total failure. And your zip code should not be the qualifier in how good your education is in this state. And I think we're seeing a movement for charter schools across the state of New Mexico and school choice, especially public school choice here in the state as well. We're going to back all those.
Well, Dagan, what was it? The teachers union were like basically making the rules during COVID, and they didn't want to go back to work.
they didn't want to go back to work, so instead they rained like horribleness on the nation's children. And on that point, they also were coordinating. Randy Weingarten was coordinating with the CDC to make sure that that the schools stayed shut. I've called them power-hungry science deniers who hate children, because that's exactly what they did. Now they're trying to act like it didn't happen.
Yeah. Mark, thanks for weighing in. We'll be watching your race. Thanks so much.
Guys, thanks very much.
All right, Mark Ronchetti joining us. Quick